Shut up and sit down.
Today I'm going to try an unscripted unboxing video of the DJI Mini 3 Pro. I'm going to take the knife. Alright. Now we open it up. We have one DJI Mini 3 Pro, and she's a fair bit bigger than the DJI Mini 2. What else do we have in the box? We have the controller. Alright, so we're going to get rid of all the stuff that we don't need. Alright, so the first thing we notice when we compare the drones to the old Mini, it's just how much bigger the new Mini is. There's the old Mini, and there's the new Mini. Alright, so the first thing we're going to have to do is sit there and charge him up. Some power into these and see how they go. So we activate the drone. So finally we can go fly. Alright. And we have flight. Well, the first impressions are not that great. It's going to be a lot more challenging to actually learn the finer minutiae of how this thing actually works before I can actually get some useful footage from it. But thankfully I learned with the DJI Mini 2, as this thing looks like it's very easy to break. My first attempt at using Active Track was much more an exercise in the drone training me, rather than any use of artificial intelligence on behalf of the drone. You can see here that the drone has a maximum tracking speed of about 30 kilometers an hour, and at that speed it's only really successful in tracking walkers. That limitation makes for some really slow and boring clips. Also, if it needs to avoid an obstacle, it slows right down even more, and if you don't realize it and slow down with it, it'll lose your track. It also has a tendency to go its own way, even if it means running into trees. You need to learn which situation the Active Track will work and only use it in those limited situations. The DJI Mini 3 Pro is proving to be a much more complicated beast than the DJI Mini 2. When I first started to use the Mini 2, I thought it had a steep learning curve. Trying to learn it from scratch with the Mini 3 Pro is going to be an even more difficult task. There have been issues like because it doesn't have any sideways sensors, The initial settings was to disable the sideways movement, but it sometimes did go sideways and I couldn't understand why. It's designed for the sensors to override the user's commands, and it does so even without giving the user any feedback. It took me a while to understand why this behaviour was happening, even though I knew the DJI Mini 2. If you're new to DJI, then the Mini 2 is a much better beginner drone than the DJI Mini 3 Pro. With shorter arms and better camera mount protection, it has proven to be, in my use of it, a much sturdier and more forgiving of mistakes. The Mini 2 has more basic operations than the lack of override protections, so when you command it to go left, it goes left, which I find it a much easier drone to initially get your head around. And finally, I've also had problems with DJI support. Originally I purchased both the drone and the Fly More kit accessories together. They told me that there was going to be a 20-day delay sending the drone, but delayed sending the accessories kit by about 5.5 weeks. When adding the additional week for freight, by that time I had already moved from the old address. DJI refused to readdress the kit for me, and now it's sitting at the old address's post office waiting to be returned to sender. I imagine that it was always going to be easier to buy the drone directly from a physical store and avoid dealing directly with DJI support. DJI is a company in dire need of competent competition.